Yes, so the Kundus in Yana Shateres Achsidis. Yeah, so when again in Yana Shateres Achsidis. והקודש ובאכל כתר שנסגר לפניה נאמרו ביורם רב. That's the davar pashut that we're dealing with when again Yana Shateres Achsidis. That's the davar pashut that Achsidis a chelik of Torah. Chelik of Torah, so Chachmas Rasena Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's not we don't have to explain that the Rebbe is not coming to explain over that Torah Achsidis is part of Yiddishkeit. It's a part of Torah. That's Vedish. The shaila is every chelik in Torah has a certain matara, has sein inyan. You learn any din, you're learning Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch Avad is Chachmas Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But what's in Yana of Shulchan Aruch? To lahir sa'adam misamaisa sheyasam. And you have other chulakim in Torah, Chveis Gemara, that in Yana is not lahir sa'amaisa sheyasam. Let's say, but it's to know the seichel neshakavatari of the dinim, to know the different days, to know the different every inyan. Now there is a medrash, the chelik of Torah, but it has its matara, its inyan. Lamed you should know das Udulas Hashem from Agada. Every chelik in Torah, besides for the general inyan that Torah is seichel alikis, Chachmas Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but every inyan in Torah has its function. Was will uftan by a mention? What's its purpose? So the shaila is what's in Yana Shateres Achsidis. And the son of in Yana Shateres Achsidis has to be a chiddush al chal kater shengal lefaneh. Henry the Achsidis is an inyan which that inyan already exists in other chelik kater. What's happening? Achsidis have them. So the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch to bring in a naya zach. We didn't have halachas b'tamein. So we have to understand what's in Yana Shateres Achsidis and how this inyan doesn't exist in the chal kater which was nizgala before Teres Achsidis. So nemru biurim rabim umehem. So the first of all, there means Zman Shal Bashem Tov Haya Elam Matzav Shel Alfus, but the Gila Bashem Tov Teres Achsidis Nis'erer Ha'elam Yisalfusei. So that state is brought from Pirchas Karditzer, I think, that B'Shas B'Zman Bashem Tov, so the Elam was Yidnim were Namatzav of his Alfus. The Volt was Namatzav of his Alfus. What's the Parshas means? The Musik of his Alfus. So Al Derech, when you get to a person that Azeh, when a person's awake, or alert, regular, so the Nefesh Molubish Beguf, so a person functions. But there's a dugmas when a person sleeps, so his nefesh is more mesulik from the guf. So then he can't function normally. The body exists, and the nefesh also exists, but the nefesh doesn't exist in a way that the body is able to access the nefesh. The nefesh is not awake and conscious in the guf. So with there a klal b'shas, a person regularly sleeps. You don't have to use special emtzaim in order to wake him up. You just get him a bisla shakol. There's different levels of sleep. His alphas is a very deep level of siluk hanefesh minaguf. It's not like misa, but it's a much deeper dark and shina where the nefesh is totally removed from the guf. And in order to bring back the nefesh, you need to have a special kayach, a special samei marpe, a special strong reach, or call his name, in order to me'er the nefesh and should be nizgala again in the guf. So the world is created in a way that I was speaking in the Kondress when they get to the world, there is when they get to Yid. So in a way that there's the Guf Ha'ilam, there's the Metzias of and there's a Lukus, which is the Va'atam HaChayas Kum, the Eibusher is the Makar HaChayas of the whole world. And the Fnei Zman Abal Shem Tov, so the world was in a state that it was Nirga Shel Lukusen Welt, or there was Nirga Shel Lukusen Yid. The Yid was connected to his Makar. Dugmas, like a person is awake, that the Nefesh is Meir and Mizgale in the Guf. So the nefesh was awake. Avadi needed then Torah mitzvahs also. A person could be sleeping. Even Bizman before this Gilei Abal Shem Tov, there was manim that a person could not necessarily be connected to be margish elikus. So thus after uvekin. For that, the regular nigla deraisa was enough in order to wake up a year that he should be connected to his makar achayis. Masha'inkin Bizman Abal Shem Tov, and from that zman until now, the world is in a state. I mean, said atzmai the cheshach was misgaber. So the world is in a state that. It's kaviyach the siluk of the chayis elki from Veltas in a way. It's bedugmas is alphas that the chayis is removed legamri from the mitzias olam, from the mitzias of a yid. So in order for a yid to have a bimargesh a kesher to the Eibusher and to have a chayis and Torah mitzvahs v'yis dafshe zayin, you need a special kayach, which that's the inyan of the Baal Shem Tov Teres Achsidis. So that's has that kayach elki to me'erer to megale to mekasher a yid with his makar, even when a person is in a state that the makar is very removed from him. There's a lemes v'steidim in Welt, so the regular kayach haliki which exists in other chalkat Torah are not bekayach to connect the yid back that he should be margish elikus. So according to this beer, the way the beer is brought is not that the Baal Shem Tov came with Teres Achsidis in Megala new inyan. The ultimate purpose is always that it is always the purpose that he should have a Yitzhak Zayin Levitik Yid, Avos Hashem and Yiras Hashem, and to be connected to the Eibusher. Sachakol, today in order for the yid to be connected to the Eibusher, you need to have, since the matzav is that there's a matzav of his alphas, the chayes eliki is the ganzen b'havdala v'richuk from Welt. The dogma is like Adam Masalef. So merely you have to have a special kech, Chassidus, which is connected to a special. That was not going into the Biyurim, but you need Chassidus in order to be Ma'erer. A Yid, as al sein nicht verschlafen, should be connected to the market, to be conscious of his market. Das is the erste Bier. The zweite Sach steht, that Chassid hu she'esel of Mishur Sadin, Kamaimer Nazal Sir from Chassid, Afagab Shemazikli. The Gemara brings this, the Alter Rebbe said, and as the Alter Rebbe was in Chassidus, and so on. So the Alter Rebbe said that the Gemara Mefaresh is that Chassid is hu she'esel of Mishur Sadin. So the Dugma the Rebbe brings here, Kamaimer Nazal Sir from Chassid, Afagab Shemazikli. That's basically that when you get to the Tzipernayim, so the Gemara says that Tzipernayim could be mazik, we get him a hezek to Nishim Muberes, so the halacha is that a Rasha just leaves them just where it is, but a tzaddik is kevron. Masha'ik and a chassid is serfan. So the serfan itself is already a inyan which is not the tzaddik, which does apit tzedek or mishpat al pimi desadin, so he's kevron. And a chassid is serif. So before the Rebbe adds this, the Rebbe adds from Taisis, avakav shemazikli. But even before then, serf and chassid, Pashas HaGemara, why is it inyan al pimi shor sadin? Because al pidin, you only have to be b'derech klal, b'shas you bury the tzipernayim, so b'derech haragul, you don't have to be chayshish. It's a chashash rechaika that maybe it's gonna it says there in the Gemara that there's the 312 that the machresha will be megalit.
No, but I'm assuming that's what you're going to say.
But when something is covered, so you don't have to be, someone buries it, you don't have to be chayshish, that if you just put a kiss, it's not kavram to begin with. But if you're just going to put a cover, so it's not going to be, if you're going to bury it, even though with derech klal, no one's going to go and dig the hole. So a pidin, in order to bavar and a hezek to someone else, you don't have to do something. You do the regular shmira, like a regular din when you get to nezikin. You have to do the regular shmira ru'uya. You don't have to be watched. You don't have to do a shmira to secure the art in the shayr, that it should be no chashash ba'ilam that it should be able to break down the door. You have to have a dalas ha'emet of ruach mitzuyah. As Ken there's going to be a hurricane, and then the dalas is not going to be enough. But you don't have pidin. You're not mechuyev to make a shmira that's going to bavarn from a ruach built to mitzuyah. So there is a here. There are klabashas your kaver the tzipernayim is shem avarnt the problem. There's a chashash, so a tzaddik serfan because he's even chayshish for a chashash rechaika that maybe the chfira is going to get uncovered. But mainly serfan. But the Rebbe is amazing even more. They bring some tastes there. The b'shas someone is saying of a chedek of his guf, even the tzipernayim, it causes a certain hezek to the person. So that's the fnei mishur sedin. A person is not mechuyev to be bavarn a hezek to someone else on the expense of himself getting a hezek. So in the case here, so achas that someone does a fnei mishur sedin that he's going to bavarn as a tzveitze yiz on the kriegen ken hezek, even at the expense of him himself getting kriegen a hezek. Because Ken's in the under in Yan fnei mishur sedin, you have that also in Pirkei Avos before Chassidus, where this nekuda of going to fnei mishur sedin even on the expense of a hezek, thus is the uftu from Chassidus of the Chassidus. That means that he should serve the Eibishter without being meschashev at all with himself, even at the expense of himself getting a hezek. That's that type of Eidas Hashem, even in the extent of him getting a hezek. That's the uftu of Chassidus. Fidiger brings a dogma over there. There was some sign of here the Lekutei Diburim. Who does? The Lekutei Diburim. You see in Artifact. The mice over there with the Bryce Kamler. That he said that the Mashiach is going to say by Fabrein, the Mashiach is going to come. They're going to take Eisel on. They're going to say that this Eisel, this little creature at Gedavint and Golerent. So he was Adam Gadol, and the fact that he was Mezazol on himself, Barabim, that's the inyan that Apidin hat nicht gedarf sein, and it's the inyan which was an inyan of Shlila. Apidin. When a person has to take care of his own, as I yid, v'Rabbi Kamler, to take care of his being mizazal on himself and being mashpil himself, that he had to do b'chadri chadarim, not pidin. He shouldn't have done the barabim. It was in of hezek, but he did it in order for andere chassidim to learn from him. Like upon it, that's the nekuda is that a chas the fnei mishur sedin is that his Avos Hashem is na'if, even to the extent of himself losing out of it. Das ist a zweite Sache. Yeah, is just that why there brings here the Afikav Shemazik, the taste is because the Etzim of Fnei Din you have that in Nigla also, but not the Fnei Din for the sake of a person getting to a higher shleimus. That's the Fnei Din. Shesdin is one. In Achas doing Fnei Din to get a higher level of the bitter amidus. But here it's Afikav Shemazik, even where he's not going to get a gain of it for the sake of another yid, for the sake of the Eibishter, even though he himself is not going to gain anything out of it. Yeah, that's the second inyan. which was, das ist der Matore von Chassidus. A dritte Sache,
But if it's entices, that means that it existed already before Chassidus.
good, in that Indian, not as a kav, not as a Seder Chaim. His fact Akasha, I remember the Prat Advarim there, but it's not. Yeah. Gimel, Mailas Chassidus, Hu Shakeches Ativim Nasim Keches Elikim. Ufto Chassidus says that the Keches Ativim, the regular Keches that a person has, Ze Alein Veren Getliche Keches. That's a whole new Indian which we don't have before altogether. In as an information then you have earlier, the extent and that it should be a Derech Chaim. That was the Chadish Chassidus. This is a whole new type of Indian. The Mailas Chassidus Hu Shakeches Nasim Keches Elikim. K'mayim Rabbeinu Azak Malatani v'Shulchan Aruch Kol Inyan Chassidus L'Shanis Teva Mideisav. Leirak L'Shanis Mideisav Ativim Elagam Teva Mideisav. Mideisav Ativim means that's even you have a bit of midas that a person has Nishkin Guten Midas. Ayer Pera Adam Yivolid. The mensch wird geboren a wilder Zach. So every person has the avodah of to be Mezachich Mideisav Ativim. Every person is born with negative things also. So that he has to fix. That's not a Ufta of Chassidus. The Ufta of Chassidus is to change the very nature of his midas. Means the nature itself, not only the bad midas that are born naturally. The nature of his midas means the fact that a person that he shouldn't serve Hashem based on his nature. He should serve Hashem based on what the emes is mechayiv. That's the shanis teva mideisav. He could have avos Hashem, but teva the apid nigla is apid pashas advarim. A person has the teva, he has the midah of ava. So what his aveda is to take away the negative things that his midas ava has. Instead of using it as midas ava to avos elam hazeh, so he has to channel it to avos Hashem. But not that the nature of his midas. Let's see, the nature, the reason why he beteva, that's his nature. His nature is to like things. And the apipashas of tikkun midas is that you shouldn't. That what should you like? You should avos Hashem and not have avos elam hazeh. Take away the dvarim shlili which midas ava has. The ufta of Chassidus is that a person should have avos Hashem because apia emes, because the Eibishot gehesen zoli pam the Eibishot. Not because my nature is to have Ava, and I'm just channeling that Midas Ava that I have naturally towards the Eibishter. But the whole Midas Ava should be built because that's what Ratzon Aliyah is. That's Midas Ava Tiv Nasim Keres Elikim. Means the fact that you have someone, let's say that the Chassidus brings from Avram Avinu, that Ati Edaiti Kirei Elikim Ata. Till then, I can't mean that the fact that Avram Avinu had Avos Hashem, his Ava was, naturally he was a Balava. Naturally his Teva was to see the Teiv which exists in things and to have an ava towards those things. So his natural midas ava the only real good is the Eibishter. So his natural midas ava was focused towards the Eibishter. But at the end of the day, the fact that he was Eivas Hashem, that midah was a natural midah. When he did a ma'is of la'alakid yitzchak b'nai to take Yitzchak Mizbeach, a mensch was not midas ava, and his midas ava is a regular midah tivis of ava. It's heipach teva that he should go be makriv. That's nachzorius to be makriv b'nei agav Mizbeach. So that was Megada. The fact that it Avos Hashem is because the emes is mechayev to have Avos Hashem, because the Eibishter is Amesor Zach, which demands to have Ava. And Avram Avinu's system is built loit vider emes is mechayev. That's kirei lekemati. Even as Ava was mivusas on the fact that he's a Yerushalayim. So that's the ufto of Chassidus, that the person not only to take away the inyanim shliliyim which exist in the midas, but that is very teva shouldn't be the factor in the Avos Hashem. His Avos Hashem shouldn't be based on that his nature is. That his attitude is kach v'kach. Elamai, where is his nature channeled towards the Eibishter? But his whole mitzvah should be built according to the way the Ratzon Aliyah is. His very teva shouldn't be a menei or master. The Gatchila is other gebeit vern, his Avos Hashem, based on the Ratzon Aliyah is. That's the kecha that Chassidus gives. Yeah. That's an achazach. And the Rebbe brings a fourth Inyan. I think this is already that's the Vustazach. The Teres Chassidus Chitsha Asher Kol Echad VeEchad Gam Misha Ein Li Neshama Gvei VeGam Li Zichres Atzmi. Every single yid means what was before the Baal Shem Tov that Dafki had to have or Neshama Gvei, or someone that L'Chatchila was in order to have a Asag and a Lukus. So Lukus is Hecher from Mitzias. So Lukus is the Tachas Apshitis, is higher than Mitzias. Who is able to have a Sagas or Lukus? The Misachad of the Eibishter. That's only someone who has a Neshama Gvei, a Hecher Neshama. The Chatchila is not a regular person. Or he was born a regular person, but Erzach Mezachach given. Erzchuv gave, and he became someone that's attuned to a higher form of reality, of a Sagas Olakus. Chassidus hat aufgetan a jeder einer, kol echad ve'echad, gam mishe ein le neshama gvei, oder le zichach atzmei, yuchal haseg Olakus, jeder einer can have a Sag in Olakus. Wie hat das Chassidus getan? והידי זה שתרס החסידס בירה is העניינים של חלק הסייד שבתרא. It's העניינים of Kabbalah, העניינים of הליכוס. Chassidus is mevar them. Mevar them means that Chassidus, the inyanim k'may shehem mitzad atzmam are inyanim elikim. They're get leche inyanim. Get leche inyanim of holikus. And Chassidus is masber them and mevar them in a way that made them concepts, made them inyanim, made them ideas in seichel. Took inyanim which are be'etzim, inyanim which are mufshit from the non-inyanim of seichel. Neshama is not inyanim of seichel. The Alter Rebbe took inyanim of the neshama chilik and he gave them words. He made them concepts. He made them musagim. Once you made them mevar given, and not only it's tamazim mevar given, but kirvas b'la seichel b'dugmais, you could have seichel but a seichel mufshit. That's the fact that it's in seichel is already a chiddush, but it could be a seichel mufshit. But al treba mevar given with musagim b'dugmais and mishalim keichas tchunas hanefesh. But mevar given in yanim elikos through using musagim concepts of Welt. So the v'meilim ebsariyach zolakas. So jeder einer kann das verstehen. Nit nafshar kol echad leechad hasik am chilik zash b'teir. It's not only matzim mevar given in seichel, but matzim mevar given in azam esert veg that they used the gmayis and mishalim, so brought down the concepts of chassidus in a way that through mishalim and the gmayis from the world that a person experiences. Keichas hanefesh, inyanim of Welt. So if you bring the gmayis, inyanim elokus from things that the person experiences, can jeder einer es verstehen. And not only understand the baseichel shebnafshi elikis, elegam baseichel shebnafshi asichlas ad baseichel shebnafshi ba'amis. They brought the gmayis. It says mipsariyach zelika. The Chassidus brought the Gemara is also from Inyanim Pashtin Gashmi Seichel. So mainly even any Seichel, not necessarily a Seichel, a Psaidel Seichel. Any Seichel can understand Krav Asagin Olukus. That's the fourth thing that Rebbe brings. The four Biurim. Rebbe says Biurim, Rebbe brings four Biurim. We'll see later that Rebbe brings a special Inyan in these four Biurim. But that's the Chatuli just brings these four Biurim. Oh, so yeah, but I'm not saying any alumnus, any Diyukim. I'm just saying Stamazay that in the Seder Advarim, the first beer that the Rebbe brings from the Baal Shem Tov, so the Inyan wasn't to be Mechadish, it's a new Inyan. The Etzim Inyan that a Yid should be connected to his Makar, and Avos Hashem Yiras Hashem doesn't Nishkin Chiddush. The reason why this Gas HaChiddush was to give a problem, because there was a Lames Vesterim, so the Kesher to Lakus they were able to access Chaves before the Baal Shem Tov, you're not able to access today without Chassidus. So at the end of the day, Chassidus didn't come to bring a new element and a new dargan of Hashem. It's just it was all kind of tzukum to the original thing. According to the second beer, already Chassidus is a higher inyan, but the etzim inyan of the Mishra didn't exist before also. But Chassidus made it a kav, and it was that should be a inyan that every yid should have a shaykhus to. Made it a seder and aveda. And the third inyan is already a new inyan. That's the inyan that the teva keiches should be ibr gemacht, that a person's very nature shouldn't be a factor as avedas Hashem. As that inyan monzach, you have to love him. That's a person has but teva midas ava, and that midas ava he has to use towards the Eibishter. There's no inyan that midas ava shouldn't be based on your nature. It should be because the emes is a mechayiv. As a certain inyan that a person should that his teva shouldn't be involved. It should be all mitzad the emes of alakus. So that's not. That's the inyan from Chassidus. But the etzem inyan of birra midas of a person changing himself, that etzem inyan you have. That's chelik and Torah. That's even before Chassidus. The fourth in a yeder is l'havan asagan alakos. That's a new inyan that the Bechlal didn't. Was nicht da free. Yeah, that's can say.
Das lekevicha was not a real.
Das lekevicha. You know that there's a machlekes rishonim about it. It's not as pashut, but the das lekevicha means to have yidiyah in alakos. A lot of rishonim that there is a mitzvah to have a munah. Who said you have to have yidiyah? The whole inyan that you have to be yidiyah. No, the da meloshen havana v'asaga. That's an uftu. The Rabbeinu Bechaya sagt das. But even him doesn't necessarily mean yidiyas mizalhaben asag in alakus. It's more the way he brings it there is to have rayis mizalhaben. It's not this in of asagas alakus. The way the chelik asay inyan of ein safe should be b'havan of asag, not just know the Eibush created the world, and that's not in inyan of asagas alakus. To know that the Eibush there is perfect. These are more. They're speaking about a deeper musik of asagas alakus. Does bring to the Gmais.
The first doctor is only about says Saklovis. The South was there says Stam.
Only, but you think the rest is Dafka Chassidus.
I don't know if the rest, or maybe the last one.
Okay, we'll see later. There brings the Baal Shem Tov, the Yachs, the Baal Shem Tov, and the Alter Rebbe. Yeah, this is the whole Kondress. Kabbalah and Chassidus was in the Sachen. That's yeah. Good. So the Rebbe brings it. Moving to Pashat Gedol Kaman. So the Rebbe brings Kaman Beyurim. Moving to Pashat Gedol Kaman means It's move on like as will be explained from different points that we see that it's pashut, that it's a davar pashut. It's not there's a bunch of needs. The world was based alphas was one thing that was needed, and then another Indian that was important, a third Indian, the fourth Indian teva midaisav. Happens to be both. All these inyanim are they're separate points. Each one is a separate point in itself, and they're all and there's no connection between one point and the other one. And punkt, they're just randomly all together. Moving a pasha that's nishtazeh, but there's a chiddush is one akuda. The Rebbe brings further that it's moving a pasha. The Rebbe is going to bring later a hechler, but not a pasha sadvarim. It's not like randomly chiddush here is being married from his alpha. This is all biyurim that are brought. What's the purpose of chiddush? And there's biyurim which have no connection one with the other. There's alamas v'stadium, the chas of there's no connection between these two things. That the world is there's his alpha some davs in Meir zayin. And another Indian, there should be the Fnei Mishor Sadin for some reason. There's no connection between these 2 points. So stam randomly, Teres Achsidis hatten sich die 2 Sachen. The Havana Pshuta is that there's a certain Nekuda, a certain main function that Achsidis came. As a result of that, you have these inyan. So Nekuda Achas. She'ina Merkevis, it's not just as a Taira which has different random qualities there that have no connection one quality with the other one. Then I was going to bring later a deeper hechlet to that. Kivan shekol ha'malach shenemer biyurim hanal over 8 biyurim. They're ma'ila shein saying verschiedene Sachen. We don't see any. So we don't see what's the nekuda ma'achedes called ma'ila shein. We see verschiedene Sachen, which these verschiedene Sachen in that can't be what the mehusa inin is. What the Baal Shem Tov came with his galus eres can't be the mehusa inin. So hari muchrach shemaas elu inin magdiris and mematzis is mehusa shederes achsidus. Yeah, that's a chiddush. I mean, all the lashenis, the way these biyurim are said, is that imsat gefragt der Alter Rebbe or someone asked, what's the purpose of chsidus? Hat man geantwortet, this is the inin of chsidus. The Rebbe said, this is the inin of chsidus. So does in their sicher steht that that's the inin from chsidus, and at zweiter sicher steht that that's the inin from chsidus. So it's and there's no connection between the 2 biyurim. So that means that they didn't. These. We're not verstehen what's the pshat in these biyurim that were given and what the purpose of chsidus is, but it's a davar pasha that nicht in them can bastehen. These don't bring out b'shleimus what's the mahus of chsidus. Mematzis means doesn't. You say doesn't. How do you say mematzis? Doesn't capture. Doesn't. Segitish tareis in ganzen. You're saying you could someone speaking about something, but he doesn't feel like he fully brought out the full scope of the Indian. There's a better word, which was in the modern Hebrew. If someone says you had a yeshiva experience, someone learned in 770, he says he didn't maximize the experience. Lo mitzah. So he used lashon that he wasn't mimatzah his time.
He wasn't squeezing.
Yeah, but like fully based arbeit in the minute. That's that part. There's a better word. There's a translation of this, no? Huh? On this word?
No.
But isn't there a translation?
There's a translation.
Chassidic heritage, no? They put a translation. Can't say that to Mevar Zayn. And you can use your machine l'shem kedusha. So vasim l'husach so there was like this. Not only that these biyurim don't bring out the Mehusa Indian. It's not a. Yeah. We're not. It doesn't mean that a Baruch Rabban. I'm just saying but we're saying like so. The Kodesh says so. It's not the pshat that the verschiedene miles was mizogda is. It's not that we're going to. So the Rebbe adds here. We're not going to look for another mile. You just mentioned 4 miles. We must find another one that's going to be the Kodesh. But the Rebbe says more. Hari muchrech shemailes elu. Look the MS is what's the nekudas achsidus is not a different type of Indian. You have inyanim pratim mugdarim. Capture. Okay, I mentioned that word.
Yeah.
Seder. I was mechaber. So I didn't see the translation. Is that the first word that was mentioned? No. Okay, good.
Defining capture.
Seder. Oh, define that's better. Yeah, define. Good. Akoponim. So the nekudas advarim is that there's different miles. There is inyanim which are inyanim pratis dikina. Moshe shchonarach. Shchonarach you can say has a distinct concrete function. A davar mugbal. Inyani is a person has to know how to. There's mitzvahs and wissen was etan. What time you're supposed to daven shachas, what time mincha, what time these are inyanim. There's a certain mechuven what shchonarach is. Was me mektan, was me tarnishtan. Every Indian has a Indian mugder. What its Indian is to מה שכן, מהוסה של החסידות היא נקודה עצמית המופשטת מעניין הפרטי. The nekuda of Chassidus is a nekuda which is not a davar prati. Means not a defined type of Indian. A different type of mahus. We're going to have to explain what it is. But the Rebbe is saying here, it's not a defined type of Indian. It's a mahus. A nekuda asbis means a nekuda which is beyond a limited type of definition. A mahus mufshit from prati. An Indian which is ain't safe. Not, we don't mean ain't safe that it's bleak vol. That's not the point of here. It's not a specific type of Indian. It's beyond that. So nekuda atzvus hamufshetes minyan pratim. I understand what this means. We're going to have to see later in the Nekuda Rebbe is going to explain. So first the alle biyurim which I mentioned before, mitzad nekudas atzvus, mitzad the mohus of what Chassidus is, that it's not a mohus pratis. It's not a davar prati. It's a general type of Indian. It's more of a core. What I'm saying is, we have the mashal, take just an example, just bring out the point. You have the mitigate to the person. So you have different keches and pratim that a person has. There's a hand, a foot, and then there is the kolos nefesh, the core itself. Not the different aspects that the nefesh contains within itself. The nefesh has a keichaseichel, and there's avid, there's yira. Then there is the core essence that's which contains all these pratim. The mahus achayis itself, the mahus adam itself, is not a certain specific koyach. That's the mahus adam itself. So there's inyanim which are atzmis, means they're core entities. They're inyanim which are be'etzem beyond the specific tzir. They're inyanim klolim. Inyanim which are connected to the mahus of Elokus, which is not a specific defined Indian milchatchila. And that's the mahus achsidus. That's the später. So what's an alibi? Once, if you're in touch with this pnimius, which has this pnimius, which is not a davar prati, not a davar mugbal, is meir, b'meile it's not mugbal. It's a nekuda asus means that it's not a davar prati. It's beyond limitation. So if such an Indian is meir, automatically it's going to change everything, and it's going to it'll be elevated that your teva will be ibr gemacht, and a person's not going to be limited to go dafka apidin. We'll see later what does that have to do with the nekuda atzvus that it's going to bring a person to go lefnimish or sadin. What the Rebbe is going to explain. But these are milas in yanim, which are when you're limited in a certain limitation. So then you're limited in his alphas is going to be a stira to you. Din is you're going to go dafka apidin. Lefnimish din won't be shaykh to you. Hasaga won't be shaykh to everyone. Hasaga l'kud won't be shaykh to everyone. You'll be limited in your nature. Masha'enkin once this pnimis, which is nizgala through chassidus, this mohus, which is not a mohus pratis, an understart mohus, which is not a defined type of thing. When this Indian is mayor, when this Indian is mayor by a person, automatically hagbalas fall off in many areas in a person's life, in many inyanim, and the hagbalas falling off results in these 4 inyanim that I mentioned before. Means these 4 inyanim, the reason why before chassidus you don't have them is because there's certain hagbalas, which was then later the beer. Once the pnimius, which the pnimius of chassidus is, where there's a mohus which is not a limited defined mohus, when that Indian is meir, falter up hagbalas, and when meila there's milas, ribe milas which are nestaya from this Indian. Mitzen the prat. Now the Rebbe first speaks in Eishes HaKabbalah, was far an nekuda retzela. An nekuda atzvus shel achsidisi, ki meduber li'il ba'mayim shebi yisei ba'mayim shel chakwa adam l'mashav shel. You know this sikha the Rebbe said to discuss the Toshen Chavav. So that Fabring the Rebbe said a Maimer Pada B'Shalom. That's Miyusid on the Maimer the Rebbe Rashab of Pada B'Shalom Tapar Shain Hey. So there the Rebbe Rashab says there that Chassidus, he doesn't use this lashon nekuda atzvus shel achsidisi, but dort state that Chassidus is amshachas chodesh m'chinas primis hakeser. U'lomayli yeser amshachas primis atik mamish m'chinas ein sof shenimtze b'radla. Das steht dort in the Maimer. Yisrael Kabbalah. The Chassidus is amshacha from primis hakeser. Keser b'chlal is makif. But Stamat Chitzenis Keser Arich has a Shaykhis the Ishtalshalis. Even though Keser is Makif, but there's some relation between Makif, between the Ein Seif to the Seder Ishtalshalis. Primis Keser means the Ein Seif the way it is, beyond any relation to Gvul, to Ishtalshalis. The Ein Seif the way he is, B'Primiyusa, the Amitas Ein Seif. And not in Primis Keser Gufa there's Dargis, but what's Chassidus Abshachas Pnimius Atik Mamish? It means the Ein Seif himself, which is beyond any defined definition. Not even a definition of Bligvul. The Eibusher himself. Ain't safe itself, and so that steht in the Maimer from the Rebbe Rashab and the Maimer Pada B'Shalom Ein Hey that Chassidus is amshacha from Ein Sof shenimtze b'radla, from Ein Sof the way it is in the most removed form from Shaychas Tikvul. Ein Sof kameshu ba'etzem mamish. So the Rebbe says, so that's verstandig that that's not a mistayf. There is what's the core of something. Then there is once you have this core, it's going to express itself in many different qualities. So the Rebbe Rashab says, Ein Seif is not, it doesn't result from a davar prati. You can't say the Mahus of Chassidus is being ma'eri people from himself. As a result of that is Ein Seif. Ein Seif doesn't result from a davar prati. Ein Seif, Ein Primis Atik, that's the Nekudas. That's the Nekudas Ha'etzem. Everything else is once you're by Yid the Shaykhs, the Primis Atik, b'meile he's going to have Ein Seif. Primis Atik is not Mugbal. It's not a Mahus Mugbelis. So b'shas Mahot Ein Seif, Hot Man Alts. Everything changes. And changes that they become the way they are mitzad Ein Seif. I will see. It says, "V'inyan za'atzmi shenemar ba'mayim machriach." Asher kolam. So vazet mekof from the Rebbe Rashab. The Chassidus is not an Inyan Prati. If it's Inyan Prati, then it's not Ein Sof, or it's even if it's Inyan, let's say it's Inyan of Bli Gvul. Not to be limited. Not to be limited is also Inyan Prati. That's not Ein Sof. That's not Pnimis Hatek Mamish, which is Ein Sof the way it is in the Atzmi is the Kamusik of Ein Sof. Before any Shaykhis to Pratim and Gvul. So, and the Rebbe adds here, Inyan za'atzmi shenemar ba'mayim machriach asher kol ha'maleh shebechsidus. Hamvu oras imkei meshein emin hakistafus min nekudas ha'atzmis. Why? Ki mikivan shachsidus yam shachas b'chines Ein Sof. Ihr verstanden kann ich move in a project asher Ein Sof hu ha'atzmi. The nekudas ha'atzim is the Ein Sof. V'chol shar inyanim asher not inyanim of inzer inyanim of pratim inyanim of gvul einam ela nimtzoyim u'mesubavim mimen. Med balzen. I was adding even more. That's let's see. I think more is getouched later, so we'll leave it for the Zen später. We'll see later. We'll see this later. Yeah, there says like this. We don't want to only say the way it's brought in this if is that we brought different biur and different milas of chassidus. You said those milas don't capture the mahusa inyan. What's the mahus? Ein Seif. But from this Ein Seif, how does this Ein Seif? What results from this Ein Seif? What's mistayif? Many different qualities. We want to say is if the pnimis is Ein Seif, so with these pratis the kabiyurim, we're not going to be able to access the pnimis. If in Chassidus you have different milas, you say that doesn't capture it. It's much more than that. But something is much more. But when you start going into these milas, you get a certain percentage of the inyan. You say Chassidus is mechadash a yeder it can verstehen alukus. Al Rebbe was mevayer inyan of alukus and seichel. B'meila everybody can have a sagan alukus. See that doesn't bring out the full scope of what Chassidus is. But maybe it's 50%. It's a murder fun. So it's not only it's more than that. Being mevayer Chassidus and seichel is a davar prati. Meir de but it's a certain distinct mile. Chassidus is Ein Seif. Chassidus is Amshara from Ein Seif, which is beyond a defined inyan. So a defined inyan, legabi the inyan, the way it is Ein Seif, have no erach klal. So from these biurim pratim, bet menish their gain the mohusein. It's not that you have to understand deeper what's the musik of Lashanis Teva Medaisev, and that's the way you're going to understand the better havana of what Chassidus is. It's a whole different inyan. It's a whole different inyan. So what's all these biurim? They result. If you have Ein Sof, Hotman Alts. If you have the Eibishter, so the Eibishter create that brings a dugma weiter from Nigel Deres. If you have the Eibishter of Ada, the Eibishter create a world. When Chassidus says Leizau Ikar Elokus Masha'el Since having men, someone's going to want to get to know the Eibishter's Ein Sof, will be mizbenin in the Flois Hateva. Flois Hateva, you're going to know meritic things, but legabe him it's kolachshiv. So legabe him, the more you're going to focus here, you're not going to get closer to what he is. So there's something to get to Chassidus. All these milas from Adas pratis, the mahus Chassidus is the Indian of Ein Sof. Indian of Ein Sof has no erech. Ein Sof legabe these milas. So the more you be misbenin in these milas, more best nutzukum and nenter to what Chassidus is. Das is ein nekuda. This represents an Esis Kabbalah. Chassidus is Ein Sof. And Kundis, the Rebbe is what we know here. The Rebbe that's negate the Hemshach Kundis is that Chassidus is different. Is something which is connected to the core of Elokus. But we have to give it Eisius. And what does Chassidus want from a person? But it's not a defined, limited idea. That's what we want to say. And once you have that nekuda, which is a nekuda which touches the pnimius inyan, the meile, the whole chitzenius is different. Everything's mishnana. But it's a kol is the gamahos. It's inyan atzmi.
What's pshat in our 10 that the Mazel Dafka takes into?
Oh, it's a besandish. That's something else. Not through the. We'll see the hemshach. Then the hemshach means that the inyan. We'll see the hemshach. Omer li'il when you get there Chassidus. Because the emes says that the etzem inyan the Rebbe says when you get to Chassidus is b'chol chelkei haTorah. The same inyan you have when you get to chol chelkei haTorah. So the mele is in other words a certain question. So what's the fact that it says in Ein Beis lechore that Chassidus Amshachas b'chinas Ein Sof is not necessarily shailel that in Yanei Chassidus is inyan prati. That brings we see when you get to Kol HaTorah Kula, we have the same thing. On one hand, the Torah Kelel is Kol HaMini Shleimus, or Milas and Msois Beilam. Torah you have everything. It says that Torah is the Makar Abriya. The whole Chayes Ha'elam, as Al says in the David's Midas Karaslu and Tanya, that the whole Chayes Ha'elam is Mishtalshel from Torah. Everything is the Torah's Kelel, everything. It's Chaim Ilam Azikam, but Simcha Mu'usher, the Torah's Kelel, alle gute Sachen. Nisenisle, the last Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, Sigita mention alts. But Haiklas B'derech Klal, that means a dogma. Yeah, the etzem word the Haiklas M'kol Nishleimus Milas and Sois Ba'el. Not saying. The Rebbe touches this more b'amchoshe desin. And the chlokes b'chlal b'inyan elam kotten hu adam Milas Hameichen and Milas Hameichen. There's two types of Milas by a person. Milas Hameichen, that his Meichen v'yed after he has the richtige Havana, and the Havana in the ultimate extent that a person is shayach is Milas Hameichen, is the right attitudes, right midas. And in both of these inyanim, the Torah is kailol these inyanim in the most perfect way, the hechsta way. Ban hages musrius, midas tevis, hare mishpatim v'darke musrius shubetera, the mesachas ovis v'chadeim im tachlis hateva emes. The ultimate good and ultimate truth. V'kol shittas hamusar shabod b'nei adam elibam murav esein tevera emes b'sheker. There's every single shitta of how a person should live his life. Any shitta in society has good in it and also has chesrenis. They gave him ra. They gave him dvarim built. The inyanim nagas musris of how a person should live the way it is in Torah. There's no nekud of ra which are neveir for them. They're ultimate tachas hatev. Mashegin nagam musris and velt is teva ra. Al there's the shit is what it's based on. The ideologies that are behind the shidduch hamusar, the chseder achayim, bisefaran and velt, are inyanim which they're not necessarily true. There's emes and sheker there. Every philosophy that I mentioned, mechadish given, there's in the shitta there's tevera and there's emes and sheker. There is many more. V'chal katev she'eshnu v'chal achas ma'ashittas mekedem u'b'teira. It's a Santa Order 17. This is just good. This is the Rebbe saying here. If someone's mamzi, a lot of these shittas are someone's mamzi. V'chatchila, he's mishur. He did it because he has an agenda. Instead, misad sheikh adatzmi. So then versteht sich that it's not going to be emes. And it's not going to be fully taif. If the person was mamzi this shit because it fits his agenda, so it's. But I was saying, even if you have a person that was at mechadish given, was misbeiner given a shit or chveisin to get to the bottom of how a person should live his life, and he did it lishma without any pnias. Still, be'etzem uhusay, there's going to be things which are false in the shit. Every nikoda, every svara, a person is going to say there's going to be every shit which is going to be created. There's going to be emes and sheker there. And there's going to be some defaults in the system that he creates. Any system of health, there's going to be defaults. The only system that's perfect is Vashtet and Torah. So Rabbi Zera, why? Because Kol Inyan, first of all, the Eibusha created the world intentionally by Eifin Shal Chaser. Baruch L'Kemasis L'Sakin. Also, the Eibusha B'Shafin Given and Avegim was also Masakin Zeh. So nothing was born, nothing was created perfect. Olach Chet Tzadas Mu'urav Meim Tevera. Tevera is mixed. Ve'ein Rebbe adds more. Ve'ein Toy B'Leira means even the Nekudas HaToiv of the Shitta, there's Ra. Means in the Mailish of Bezeh, there's a Nekud of Chisar. Let's say you have a Shitta that's Madgish, the Mail of the group. So the group is Shelo the Prat. The Toiv contains with it. The Mail is something which brings. It's not that there's in this Shitta there's Toiv, and then there's another aspect Ra. The Toiv also causes Ra. There's once Chet das happens, so in every there's no Nekud of Toiv that's absolute good in Welt. Every Nekud of Toiv in Welt has that Toiv itself has a negative trait. There's no absolute good. There's no absolute good. Yeah, it's good to know this. Imagine, yeah. I'm saying it's in verschiedene Sachen, but this is a very good thing to know. Every mitzias that exists in the world, there's no pure milas. There's no pure teif. There's teif v'ramu ura biyachad. Mashiach and the Yonah, the way they are in Torah, are the teif is a pure teif. We can trachten wegen dem. And the good which exists in everything, take stems from Torah. Kedu asim rechak muchad mur, sheba'achas v'nesiyesa v'sfakol chamanoshim v'viyu dei shidus in the tzachas atera l'shidus hamediniyas, yamod all the whole ma'peche, and exactly what's the right, how does Torah hold that should be that the society darten soll gebeit werden. So there's this shit, socialism, was given all certain shittas in those days in Russia after the Tsar was so they were discussing it, And im Eizem in Himaskemes, so they asked, V'chol echad mehem herem makir b'teira l'shitasi, V'shosholach v'schavedas muchad mur b'za ono ha-teira l'yezu tachlas emes v'ateiv. I mean, teira is a lukus. So it's tachlas emes v'ateiv, yesh no it's tachlas emes. It's not a limited form of good. It's the good in its fullest purity, the tachlas hateiv. So yesh no b'kol inyan ha'teiv v'chol ha'shittas. Tachlas hateiv. There's no, and others has to get to anhagas mus. Others have to get to chachmis. Hatayda hi achachma yeser nailis mishkos kich maskum v'naschum leinian. It means betzias ha'elam mitzad atzma is chaser. That's the other pashut. Mashiach in Torah, which is connected to the Eibush, there is not chaser. The Eibush created the world in a way of lasis l'sakin, and there's tevara, and Adam Rishon made a chant out of the tevara, and it became everything's intertwined. But Torah is a lukus. The lukus is tachas hashleimus, tachas hateva emes. So imitz wird sagen, in was besteht die Meile? Von Torah, that you have all the world's qualities, you have in Torah in the best form. You have the world of Chveis, Midas and Seichel. You say, what's the ultimate Meiles of Welt? Seichel, Midas, sagen, in was besteht die Meile von Torah, that you have these inyanim in the most perfect state. It says, in dem besteht was Torah is, nicht in dem besteht was Torah is. Lesen was Shkola, Shwas Chais Be'elung, gam Yel Tzalien, tell the Kashal Torah. Omnam leis zuim husa shel Torah, saying someone he asks, what's bashtet mohusa of chesed mishpat? Because the best way of dealing with dispute cases the din Torah is the way chesed mishpat. And what's the mile of this chelik in Torah? The best way to know how to run a kitchen is yeridei. It's emes that kashrus is going to be the best diet. Darton is going to be kashrus, let's say. Or lahavdol basar b'cholav, or all these type of things. It's going to be the best way of eating. But this dem bashtet mahus. That's not the mahus inyan. Listen, what's Torah? What's Torah? Mashim yichazek amar be'ein tzapar chom lusha v'tachas hayichud. Torah is chachmas ishla HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is one with Ein Seif. Chachmas HaTorah is meyuchad with Ein Seif. And Ayid learned Avart in Torah. He's connected to the Eibusher himself. He's connected to Ein Seif. And Ayid keeps, what's the yichas of keeping kashas? But that's the Ratzon Elyon, which is Ein Seif. It happens to be that it's also going to be the best diet for him, or kayetze b'zeh. But nicht in dem besteht was the mahus is. The mahus is ein safe, and if the mahus is ein safe, lechen kimen shkol elmas im kolom mamish legabe ein safe baruch hu. By uns, Welt is a great zach, and shittis and how to run dort and shittis hanhagas b'nei adam. That's what a person. That's the biggest virtue for us. But the guy by the Eibush there, the ganze Welt is kolach shiv. Das schaffen der Welt mein yesh. The Welt is noch shiv at all. Kolach shiv le mamish legabe ein safe baruch hu. Is keinem legabe Torah, which is one with this ein safe. So legabe Torah, the best way of eating is kashrus. The best way of eating that's kolach. That's the whole musik of eating that is not, has no value legabe lukus. Kolach mamish legabe the Eibush there. So there is legabe Torah. Ulezeis in the shabcha klal betilas chayis kol elemis. Me'achar the lo mamish chashivi. As Alter Rebbe over there. What was the chet of David HaMelech? Yeah. So David HaMelech was misbeinin that the Torah is the makar achayis in the ganze Welt. Dikta kal mit divrei Torah, that's the ganze Welt is totally in a dikta kal of divrei Torah. So the Rebbe says, so the elements are great zach. And the whole elements are totally in one ace, one dikta kal of divrei Torah. So David HaMelech got an einish for that, with Alter Rebbe explains, because Torah is b'chlal shlei be'erech Welt melchatchila. The whole mitzvah element is kala legabi Torah. So he was degrading what the Indian of Torah is in David's midas karaslu. That's Gemara and Seit. Bekannt with them. Because David called Torah's midas, we didn't learn it yet. But because David called Torah's midas, so he got punished. So what's the einish? So Alter Rebbe explains because he was David was beinin that Elamis are Elamis, and they're all totally in dikta kasha divrei Torah. Alter Rebbe says the gabi the truth chumas what Torah is, which is ein miyuchat with ein safe. Welt is kala, doesn't exist. So that was a chet legabi David. So what do we see from here? Because Torah is one with Ein Seif, because Michad is here in Sof Baruch Hu, Kilal is even Meile Gamas Kol Minei Mal Shlem Shabbayil. Vayot Hashpas Achayis. The Eibush is Ein Sof. Because he's Ein Sof, so Avada Gevis he can create a world, and Avada Gevis is Tachas HaTeiv. Teiv is a davar prati, and Teiv is nothing legabe Ein Seif. If it's nothing legabe Ein Seif, that means Ein Seif doesn't contain it. If he's Ein Seif, so he has everything. But that doesn't mean that everything expresses what the Ein Sof is. So the Mele, so that Indian that so what's Dr. Anand, so what's the Rebbe saying? You come in to say what's the Mahus of Chassidus? So he brought 4 Biyurim, and then Dr. Rebbe, no, Dr. Rebbe Rashab says Chassidus is Ein Sof. If he come in Ein Sof, he come in Nutzen Div Pratis Dika Biyurim. What's the Kasha B'chlal? Every Indian in Torah also has an Indian Prati. Shulchan Aruch also has an Indian Prati. Are you going to say is that what Shulchan Aruch is? No, it's Miyuchat with Ein Sof. So, but even though it's miyuchad with Ein Sof, it's not a stira that someone's going to say that what's the function of this and this chelik and Torah to uftan kach v'kach. What's the Rebbe says? Achin afshe kol chelkat Torah. This is not a davar pasha that the Rebbe says. This achin afshe kol chelkat Torah. Kedasa ma'atz mesi ma sheim yuchad me'erin sof baruch hu. B'chol ze ikar nekuda zum is bata b'teres achsidus. K'omer ba'maimer b'negei l'chsidus. If the Rebbe says b'negei l'chsidus, shehi dafka amshara sin sof shenin suberat lo. The Rebbe is going to explain why. L'chore Torah is b'chal chachmasi hamiyuched is bein sof baruch hu. So what's the ufto of chsidus? The Rebbe says like this. Ki kol chelkei Torah b'chnes in sof shem mislabish u be'ezet tzir. Tzir hamagdir umavate gita reis musa shechilik zeh. Says any Indian in Torah. So what's the shchonarech in Yani is learning chveis hilchas fir saimer. The mechuven of those halachas are to teach you vitzu mekayim the mitzvah of fir saimer. And what's the havon of the mitzvah of fir saimer? That is the levush. Someone's going to say, what's the yichus of learning Sfir Saimer? Is that you understand the mitzvah of Sfir Saimer. That's not the yichus. The yichus is that now Ein Sof is you're connected to Ein Sof, because the chachma, the levush, is the Eibush is Kaviyochem mislabish to deal with the prati dinim of Sfir Saimer, or the prati dinim when you get the Shesh Nagar Sapara. But the yichus, the muhus is that there's Ein Sof mulubish in this mos. Not that we know how to do kach v'kach. By learning these dinim, we're miyuchad with Ein Sof. But Lepoil and every Indian in Torah, Ein Sof is mislabish and connected himself to be melubish in that Indian prati umudar. And if you want to connect, if someone wants to connect to the Eibishter through learning Gemara, you say, I want to connect to Ein Sof. The way you connect to Ein Sof is by understanding well the svara the Gemara says. The Gemara is saying a distinct svara. You have to know what the Gemara is dealing with. We're dealing with a prati is the gezach, and Ein Sof hat sich hereingelegt in dem Indian prati. So if you want to access and be misachad with the Ein Sof within this halacha, with Ein Sof, you can't take Ein Sof. It's knowing the svara of Metzchav Olav Harai. By knowing this svara, by knowing there's a Meitzi and a Mursik, and the svara, that's the way you connect with the Ein Sof, where's the Ein Sof invested? In this Indian prati. There is not going now beyond what's the Lomdas Shibazeh. Avada, the Inyanim in Torah that you're learning are Levushim. The Mohus is not that now you know the svara Metzchav Olav Harai. Within the svara is Mulubash Ein Sof. But Ein Sof connected himself. That the way you connect him is through this svara. So he invested himself in this levush prati. That's when you get the chochel keter. So what's melubish in it, what's linked in them is Ein Sof. But Ein Sof invested himself in this levush of this and this din, whatever you're learning, with this and this nice entire whatever a person's learning. That's when you get the chochel keter. So you say l'chur chassid is the same thing. It says kol keter mechin Ein Sof shem mislabish beizet tzir. Tzir hamagdir umavate gita reis musa shechilik zeh. There's a tzir. Every chilik in Torah has a certain tzir which defines what's the nekuda of this chilik in Torah. There's pshat, remes, drush, seid, befin klali. Each chilik in Torah has a distinct hagdara what this chilik is, and each chilik has its klali alimut. Means it's a distinct Indian prati. The Ein Sof which is invested in this tzir is Ein Sof, but it's the Ein Sof the way he invested himself in a certain form, in a certain structure. And that in each chilik has a structure. There's klali halacha and klali agada. There's no connection, and each one has its own klolim prati. And agada has its function, and nigla has its function. And within nigla gufa, I mean, but even klali is pshat them is just. But each chilik in Torah has a tzir which taka expresses what the chilik in Torah is. Now, but then some melubish in them Ein Sof, and this tzir is miyuchad with Ein Sof. But the tzir is not Ein Sof. The tzir is davar prati. In this tzir, there's invested Ein Sof, and the only way to connect to that Ein Sof is through this tzir. If you're learning pshat, if someone's going to learn pshat, he's going to start getting excited by the fact that the Ein Sof is melubash here. He's not connecting with the Ein Sof which is melubash in pshat. Someone's going to learn a perek Tanya, and it says there that Torah is miyuchad with Ein Sof. And he's going to open up a Rashi. He's not going to understand the Rashi, but he's going to start getting all beislavos that he's learning now. Eisi is that connecting to Ein Sof. He didn't become connected to Ein Sof, even though he got very nislai, but he didn't connect to Ein Sof. The Ein Sof is invested in understanding the pshat of this pasuk. And if you don't understand the pshat of this pasuk, you don't access the Ein Sof. The pshat of this pasuk is a davar prati. In them is melubash Ein Sof. That's not chazach. So that's the first thing. The tzir zesh, and now the Rebbe adds another point. This tzir zesh shel chelik teira zeh, which pshat, remes, drush, seid, each chelik has its function. Mailim hu apshit Ein Sof hamelubash bay. Helim de levush kav yochad efshel achlife. He's mailim on the pshit Ein Sof. Ein Sof has no tzir. Ein Sof posh blachs apshitis. But even if you have a Yidden like us, that we can learn Torah, we're not margish that it's a levush. We learn in Tanya that it's a levush. But when we learn Torah, we're margish machlep arbachem, we're margish the svar. You have a Yid that's margish that it's a levush to Ein Sof. Let's say Yid by him, Pshasa learned Pshat, he's margish that through learning this Inyan, he's miyuchad, there's Ein Sof which is malubish here. But since the Ein Sof is malubish in this tzir, and the tzir is negeya, the Eibush connected himself. He connected himself to this Inyan, and that Inyan is Inyan Prati, so it's Mailim on the Pshittas Ein Sof. The fact that the Eibush is beyond Tzir cannot be Nirgash Begoli in other Chalkat Torah. Why? Because their Inyan is not to express the Eibush's Pshittas. Their Inyan is the way the Eibush Ein Sof connected himself with the Davar Prati. So even someone which is going to sense the Ein Sof which exists in a Blat Gemara that he's learning. But the Pshittas Ein Sof, leicht dort nicht. Ba'amitis be'etzem Inyan. Because the Ein Sof hat reingestellt, was magbal, was you say, defined himself and invested himself in a specific Inyan. But there was like this. Now, Helen Golbish Kavyochel Yef Shalach. If someone, there was not going into what's the Havana of this whole Inyan that Ein Sof, that there says in Tanya, in Perek Daled, that the Eibush is Choch Man Ratzin is Ein Sof. But the Eibush Oliver saying that she take Kol Machshavat Tfisa. So Mele, the Eibush invested his Ein Sof in small things, in Dvarim Prati. So it's not a joke. The Eibush connected himself to these small little things. So now the Ein Sof, the Pshittas of the Ein Sof, is takenat is leicht dort nicht. It's the Ein Sof the way it limited himself, the way he connected himself to a certain small thing. To the machshavet tfisa b'hem. So the Rebbe, and he's mugder in that. So Luchari can say the same thing when you get to Chassidus. It's also the same thing. Every Maimer does. I'm saying, in Sof, a Maimer speaking about also. You have to understand the Maimer. A Maimer speaking about also specific things. You're learning a Maimer, so you're not supposed to. The same way every Chelik in Torah, there's a certain seer, and within this seer is Melubash Ein Sof. And the Rebbe is saying, if the fact that Ein Sof is invested in a seer means that's Mailam the Pshittas Ein Sof. What's a Maimer Chassidus? Ein Sof, Luchari Maimer Chassidus Eichet is the Inyan of Prat. Whatever the Maimer is coming to explain, it's coming to explain Seder Shtalshel or a different Inyan. Luchari it's also Inyan Prat. So the Rebbe says here, nicht to say. The Rebbe says here, Teres Chassidus mikivon she'ena mugdares ve'ezet seer. I'll say from the first side. The Rebbe is saying here that Chassidus, Teres Chassidus is not the way Ein Sof invested himself in a certain seer. Chassidus says that a Yid should have a shaykhs to the Ein Sof, which is beyond seer, to the Pshittas Ein Sof. L'poil, a person is never mugbal. In order for a person to be misached with the Pshittas Ein Sof, we have to use the language of Biyurim Ve'ezbeirim. But we're not asking to explain these Biyurim Ve'ezbeirim. That's what the Rebbe is saying here. See, let's say you have a Maimer that it's very hard to see this in a Maimer because it's a little bit of a... The Rebbe is not saying that when you learn a Maimer, you're not supposed to understand what the Maimer is saying. But the Rebbe is saying, what's the Maimer Eisu? Is Maimer Eisu because someone's learning a Perek Tani, that is Masber, the Nefesh Bahamas is built up. So you're going to say, what's the Maimer discussing? A certain Inyan Prati, the build up of the Nefesh Bahamas. Whatever the Nefesh Bahamas is built up. See, there's nicht eisen to be mavair what the Nefesh Bahamas is. That's not the Inyan. The Inyan is that a person should have a hergish, and as Omer Zan Be'em, the Pshittas Elukus, the Ein Sof of the Eibusher, does also Chen Be'em. How is a person going to sense the Eibusher's Pshittas? So these Biyurim, but these Biyurim, we're not eisen these Biyurim. We're eisen that through understanding these Biyurim, the Pshittas Ein Sof will be Nirgash. We're not eisen to express these Biyurim. Let's see the Lashon the Rebbe says. This is nicht kein Davar Pasha, was steht da. Teres Achsidus mikivon she'eina mugdares be'ezet tzir. It's like not mugdar. Somebody say, what's this Maimer going to speak about? So you open up a Sefer Shulchan Aruch, and mitamol, me geht sich nicht verreden dort in Shulchan Aruch, when you know exactly, you can learn Hilchas Shlomo Sabeker, you're not going to find it with their halachas of how to kasher a pot. You can learn Hilchas Shlomo Sabeker. You know, someone say, open a Maimer Chassidus, this are you going to learn how to deal with this and this midah of the Nefesh Bahamas. It's not such a Maimer. You're going to find over there mitamol, sabir, and Eisis and Shemavaya, and this Indian and that Indian. So it's not that you're going to find this Rabbi discusses this, and it's punkt narrowed down to this and this topic, and here you have the. I'm saying you open up a Maimer. There's things happening over there besides for the specific narrow topic that you're looking for. So it says, "This is not mugdar natzir." V'atziyurim she'ina so b'chlis mizgal al yodem kalavush tachlifen v'yachleifu. It's not a pasha. The Rebbe is not saying that it's not a lavush. Avada, the Ein Sof is a lavush, no lavush. We're being mavar certain in yodim. But the levush is not the inyan. And it's misbaten them that you could change. The Rebbe says, Kalvush tachlifin v'yachleifu. If you change the levush, it's not going to affect the inyan. So that's a raya that the levush is just a chetimtze to be margish a malubush, which is beyond the levush.
When you marshal the guy getting in this bylaws, if you are not...
No, you have to understand the levush. The Rebbe is saying something else. The Rebbe is saying, what is he getting from his father? He didn't understand the Maimer, what's he being dispelled from? There's a couple of points here, but I'm saying just the Taish, the Lashon, the Rebbe says here, I understand the Maimer Zakt. What the Rebbe is saying is that the inyan that's being expressed through the Maimer is not limited to those levushim. You'll change the levush, the inyan black is albi. Kalvush tachlivim v'yachleifu. Because the nekuda is not this levush. The nekuda is just a dogma ba'alma, not. It's not a good just to bring out this point, but al derech, like you're going to say, you have that someone is being masber advar seichel. So first of all, he says it in words. You can say different words. It's not going to change the idea. The idea is not invested in these words. They're using the words as an emtsai. You want to bring out a certain idea. You have to use different words. So you want to bring out a certain point. The point is not limited according to the words that you're using. The words are only an emtsai to bring out a certain point. So listen, languages. If the languages is gonna, if someone speaks something in French or speaks something in a different language, it changes the inyan. The language is not, the inyan has nothing to do with, the language has nothing to do with the inyan. The inyan is the gedank, which is not any language. You use languages as a chitzain is the kemtsai to bring out the inyan. The Levushim Chassidus is not a chitzain is the kemtsai, but I'm saying with this Nekud, the Rebbe is saying is, the mohus what Chassidus wants to bring out is beyond the Levush Prati that Chassidus speaks about. Every Maimer is using different Levushim to bring out a Nekuda which is not limited to the tzir of the levush. We want to connect each Rav Asag in Pshitas Ein Sof. You have no other way of connecting. The same way, how are you going to give over something kind of language? You have to choose a language, which language you're going to speak. But the inyan is not limited to the language. That's just an emtsai. Al derech zeh, Chassidus is eisen as al zecheren the Eibush is Pshitas. The Eibush is Ein Sof. Not the way the Ein Sof. The Rebbe is saying other Chelkat Teire is not. What's the pshat? The Rebbe Rashab said the Chassidus is Ein Sof shenimtze beradlo. Pshimi Ein Sof, and what's the whole Torah? But the whole Torah is taken not the Ein Sof the way he is Batzmoseh. It's the way the Ein Sof connected himself, invested himself in a certain inyan prati. It's Ein Sof, but it's not the Ein Sof Kameshu Hu Batzmoseh. It's the way it's mitzumtzen in a certain inyan, mislabish in a certain inyan. Mashek and Chassidus is the Ein Sof Kameshu. Ein Sof Kameshu Hu is not an inyan prati. What's all these levushim pratim? I mean, these are the levushim with which Ein Sof is expressed. The pshit is Ein Sof. And it's b'mele the levushim taka, they're not the mahusa inyan. Kalvush tachlin v'yachleifu. It's not so pashut, but I'm saying it's not that we could go to take away this levush, that levush, we can machen eigen levushim. Yeah, this is the Rabbeim's doing. The Rebbe saying b'mahusa inyan, Chassidus is not mugder. Yes, nicht as pashut. But just Stamazah, the Yisrael would say this dogma that when they get to that it says when they get to the man, for example, that Tom will be kol timing. So what's the pshat? You have a regular food, is a food or it's bitter or it's sweet, or it's smart or it's masik. Man, it could have been the same thing. If you wanted it to be mar, it was mar. You wanted it to be masik, it was masik. Lepel, what did they taste when the guy wanted it to be mar? It was bitter. But is it the same bitter as when someone eats a hot food, a hot pepper? It's not the same thing. A hot pepper is bitter. The man was nirgash in the man. We want to remind you about supper. I just want to bring out just to bring out the Kodesh Inyan. So this is a levush tachlin v'yachleifu. This is from the digmais muchashias. But the point is that when he was that a yid is taking a man, he said this food itself, as can zayin other bitter, others is. So what does that bring out? The food doesn't have a distinct flavor. It was beyond flavor. Flavor is a double prati, and mar and masik is a stidim is get shazam. Man was lechem and hashamayim, was different type of bread b'chlal. A himeldik asert bread which didn't have the akbala of a certain flavor. But could we taste the mahus of man is not having akbala of a certain flavor? Could we taste that in gufa? Could a mention? Could you experience not being limited in a certain flavor? How are you going to taste that? That's what the man is. In order for us to access this not being limited in a certain flavor, how does it express itself? That any flavor you want, you're able to sense. The when you're sensing red, you're sensing bitter dirt, and you're sensing sweet. What's the mechuven? As a bitter, it's bitter. That expresses to you that this food doesn't have a distinct flavor. The only way for you to access that it doesn't have a distinct flavor, the only way for you to taste it is that you can taste any flavor. So the kalbush tachlifim v'achleifa, that's a dogma they have. If you say this thing is a bitter azach, so that's the taste of bitter azach. Here, man wasn't bitter and it wasn't sweet. It wasn't sweet either. What was it? Not a defined flavor, b'chlal. Not being defined in flavor. How do you able to Lamer Zagan as the kavana is as also a person he didn't want to taste any flavor, but if you want, gebracht, the fact that this lechem is himmeldika lechem, which doesn't have a distinct flavor, that whatever he wants he can taste. So lepayo, that's with what is expressed that this mohus is not limited in a certain taste, in the fact that you have anything there and it could switch. The same thing could be bitter, could be sweet. It says, Chassidus in Yoni is not Teira the way Teira is connected to Prat. Teira is Pshittas Ein Sof. That's Chassidus brings out the Pshittas Ein Sof. That's what Chassidus came to that a person should have a hasaga in Pnimius Ein, in Pshittas Ein Sof. V'idas with these tziyurim. These tziyurim that are used in the Maimer, and the lechatchila, the tziyurim in Maimer is not like tziyurim in Nigla. Different type of tziyurim. It's tziyurim that kalavush tachlifim. You see that the Indian that you're learning is not mugder in this tziyur. It's not defined by this tziyur. So azah sort levush is ishmael mavdam levush. Like in the case of the man, azah flavor that you could switch it. Means the mohus is not limited in this flavor. That type of flavor is not mailam on the pshittas. If it's a flavor that you cannot, so you're going to taste bitter, not going to taste anything else. But a flavor that, if you want something else, midam want something else, so that tamar is not mailim on the pshittas of the maichel. Because it's nirgash that the Indian is not limited in this time. If I stay the minion. Yeah, that's nicht as pashit. So the Rebbe says here, I'm saying it's not so pashit for us to start using this in a regular manner that we learn. But this is what it says here. You have to remember, the Rebbe is not saying here that the levushim are not important. But the Inyan is beyond the tzir of what the Maimer is coming to explain.
And every other part is halamamiti.
Yeah, that's what it says before.
Yeah, Mugder Dafka, you have to understand that.
Helamamita, no, you mean Helamamita doesn't mean that.
But what it isn't.
No, Helamamita and the Pshita saying so. Not the Helamamita and the Pshita saying so. The Rebbe says, L'chein kelele si is called da the chalakim padash u'b'teir u'machai yesem u'delala. Yeah, that's nish as a pashit. It helps us a little bit to just, when you don't understand the Maimer, so we can use this as a little, but that's nish as a pashit. I'm saying, but there's certain, you can learn a Maimer, you say that that's not this, to be mavara, this darga, let's say, is not the point over here. So let's say someone learning about the Maimer wants to bring out the yichud of das elin and das tachten. So we want to bring out that the Eibusha is not mugbal. That's what we want to bring out. The Lepel, we explain teva, we explain nes, but it's nirgash. The Maimer is not able to explain teva itself. We're not able to explain how Eir and Eir works. No one's going to think what's the Alter brings up Eir. Never mentioned the Alter. Wants to push it, explain to us how this phenomenon that Eir and Eir chofetz. He wants to bring out the Ayitz Mr. Shnevish to the Eibusha. And that's a levush. I'm saying I'm not saying this is mechuvan to what the Rebbe is saying here, but in a certain point, the Rebbe is mevayir azach, and that's yeder tzir, as I say. Yeder inyan is a emtzai of tzarez gam pshittas ein sof. Yeah, this nish as a pashut. Good. So this is all. So what do we have from this? So the Rebbe is saying is, of course, every chelik in Torah is bepnimius mehusay is ain't safe, but that's not a stira to say that it's not ain't sof. In Yoni is not the ain't sof kfishu. In Yoni of all other Chelka Torah is not insafe. It's insafe the way he invested himself in a certain topic. So every time we can explain what the Indian is. The Indian of Nigla is this Indian. The Indian of this is that Indian. Every Chelka Torah has its Indian. It's insafe. It's insafe the way it's verbunden with a gewisser Indian. Mashek in Chassidus is not insafe the way it connected himself, the way it invested in. It's insafe kameshu hu ba'atzmusah. That's what Chassidus is. So does I'm verstehen, what is that? What's the Rebbe going to touch it up? That's an Eishes HaKabbalah. Chassidus Samsharas Ein Sof Shnim Seberad La. Samsharas Ein Sof, and that's the premium. But what does that mean? Was meint das? What does that mean? Wie können wir das abteichen? Wir sollen es verstehen, wegen was handelt sich. What does that mean by Nefesh Adam? And what is Chassidus coming to affect in a person? How to abteichen der Sach? Yeah, Hashach is Ein Sof. What does that mean? So we got to know the Ein Sof. What's the point is we should know the Eibishter. Was handelt sich da? So that the Rebbe is going to explain. Es soll sein verstandig. Walter Zeger.
9:20.
Should we start going weiter, or the Elam wants to take a break? We're going weiter.
That's a good place to stop.
Good place to stop.
And you said that you could switch to Tzirim.
Yeah.
Is
I'm saying the Indian is not mugbal like the tzir.
which
What the Rebbe is
Indian
explaining,
of insight.
the chassidus. What I'm saying is you have man, let's just use that document. You have man, you have regular food. This food is bitter. Gendik. It's a davar mar. This and this taste. The man didn't have a specific taste. But it's not only man that has a specific taste. The timing that a person was taming the man weren't milim on the pshitas of the man. Why wasn't the milim? Because it was nirgash that it's not mugdir in this time. It was a different type of bitter. There's bitter that this food is limited in this taste, or it has this taste because it's not limited. And the flavor was nirgash that it's not a flavor that's nevea from something which is limited in mar. It's a davar which is not mugdir in a tam prati. The levush wasn't, the tzir wasn't milim, the tam wasn't milim on the pshitas, because the time is because it's you can be machlef it. It's not set on that flavor. It could be so the fact that it's interchangeable. That's that the levushim are not milim on the pshitas. When the tzir is a tzir which is a tzir hamagdir, a dasider inyan, so then the insaf in them and the insaf is behelim. But if the levush is, why is the levush not milim? Because it's nirgash in the levush that we're not acing this levush. The levush is just an emtsai in order to be margish insaf. It's nirgash in the levush that the levush, and therefore you could change the levush. Say not when someone's learning the levush. The levush which chassidus is gathered through them, it's azas cert levush, which is not the defining purpose of the inyan. It's just it's not just, but it's a levush to be megala something which is beyond the tzir of this levush. Therefore, the levushim aren't seisr echad la'asheni. You can interchange the levushim.
Instead that one member brings out is brought out the same thing.
No other
same,
member,
but
yeah.
no other member.
Yeah, but you're saying the insaf. The vart is that the levushim, the inyan which is expressed through the levushim, are not. Let's say you learn a member about the nafsh bahamis. Let's say you'll be machlef the levush, but the inyan that you learn that was expressed in the levush is the same inyan. It's nirgash that the levushim are not. The inyan is not mitzumsim according to the levush. So if you're going to be machlef the levush, yachleifu, that means it's not going to change the gufa inyan, and the levushim is as it.
That's itself what brings out that it's.
So those levushim are not mailim. A levush was kind of chalaben. The chassidus is saying a maimer. I don't know exactly what, or chassidus being mazber inyan. It's the levushim which the maimer is speaking about are not levushim which it's nirgash in them that the mahus is not that it's not that the inyan is to bring out this levush. There's an inyan which is lamaylim which is nizgala through them, and that's nirgash in that levush. So azas cert levush is nishmayim. I'm explaining a levush which is a levush hamagdir, and the inyan is we're say you're being misakav in the levush. That levush is mailim. A levush which was interchangeable as a levush is nishmayim. I'm saying is al derech, like a language is never a levush hamagdir. So why is language not mailim on the seichel? Because it's not that type of levush which captures the idea. It's not that type of levush. It's a levush just to convey an idea, not to capture it. But you have a certain levushim that they're not levushim, which just they're levushim which the inyan becomes limited according to their property. There, they capture the inyan. So azas cert levush, which doesn't capture the inyan, azas cert levush is nish ma'alim of the inyan. The Rebbe is saying here that the inyanim of chassidus, the levushim which the Maimer speaks about, are azal cert levushim, which are not levushim which are magdir melubish. They're levushim which is nirgash in them, that it's interchangeable in inyan. Not necessarily that we learn it to versteht this, but that's the Rebbe saying the levushim tzadats are not levushim magbidim. As you can have a Maimer and that's steht dort in Kabbalah. It says it's kalel says kol kal dal chalak and pardish b'teira. How could this have pardish b'teira? Because it's how could a man have different timing? When if this food is bitter, so bitter or it's bitter or it's sweet. But if it's not bitter, bitter is just an expression of the fact that it's not limited in a certain flavor. Then the mar is not a stira to the masik. So So it's not the same mar. The Chetzeni is the same mar, but but that mar is an aveh from a davar bilti mugbar. I'm saying all the way it is in Chassidus itself, not when it get when a yid learns Chassidus. The Rebbe is saying it when it get to the tziyurim she'inin shebechassidus mizgal al yadam. The lashon and the Kontras is mered in the inin alein, that the levushim are not levushim which are magbal. The Rebbe is saying when someone's learning a maimer, so the inyanim pratim which are being discussed is not mailim on the pshitis ein sof that is nizgal through that inin. There's a certain seichel in the maimer. The seichel, I verstehe the maimer sagt, but that's not the inyan. The seichel is a levush, is also the pshitis ein sof. Yeah, das darf man sich hereintrachten, das ist nicht eine poshte Sache. I'm saying it's not a simple inyan. It's not a simple inyan. Huh? I'm just saying that it doesn't mean that that's not what the Rebbe is saying. The Rebbe is saying that it's a different type of levush. Someone's going to say when they get to man, so since the Indian is not mukbal in a flavor, so you shouldn't taste it. So you're not going to taste, you're not going to have a shaykhs to the whole Indian. This is the way you have a shaykhs to the hergesh of man, is that you taste fashid in a certain time. And that's the way it's made by the person, the fact that it's a mohus which is not mugdar in a certain time. Gut, metach mamshel sein. Ihr werdet sich hereintrachten. Ja, das ist hereintrachten, it's not.